Isn't that a nice, tidy little getup right there? So here in the bottom is my Xped mat, my air mat, yeah, my sim mat, and my poncho, so I can just get it. And then here, it's just my thermarest, and then there's the duffel, which has got all the sleeping stuff on it, so you can just drop that as a base kind of bag. And then in the thing itself is my clothing bag, my sort of evening bag, my kuksa, and there's actually my food, and there's actually room for considerably more food. And plus, I mean, you can imagine, you can just tie whatever you want onto this thing. You can put a heavier waist belt on it, and then you can imagine it just becomes a big, comfy load carrying thing. So, I like it a lot. That is how to be comfortable in the woods, my friends. Here with a little belt pack, and yeah, I think it's quite a nice kind of way to spend some time in the forest. It's yeah, very wet overnight, very wet, but oh well, that's how it goes, isn't it? Nice though, lush and pretty. Nice one, Sep. So today I'm going to try out our little shelter here as a sleeping place. It was pretty rainy, so this is my poncho, and I've just draped it down the front of the shelter here for some additional protection from the rain. If I wanted to have a fire, it was there, but I don't. What I do have, though, is a very nice, dry, high up sleeping platform with lots of wood. I tell you what, guys, you have to actually experience what it's like to have that. Just to show up somewhere and have a whole bunch of nice wood. And this is all I have with me. So, it is the Tarahumara pack. I've got my little Xped mat here on the bottom. My 3/4 length thermarest that we all know and love, and the little duffel bag with a sleeping bag and stuff in it. So what exactly all is in that I will tell you later, because right now I'm just really enjoying this a lot. A lot. Yes, it's really good. So, nice ridgeline here. Ridgelines do not have to be the length of your tarp, so this one's actually somewhat diagonal. Tarp's going to be this way. Nice prusik knot, thin line, and just use a stick. You'll see in a minute. So, the poncho, take the hood, you scrunch it all up, and then you're going to do a 2-step process with it. Alright, so take the poncho, and the first thing you do is you tie a knot in it this way, like that, and then you fold it over this, and you do another one. Okay, this way, there's no water getting in here. And you hang it on the ridgeline. And you hang it on the ridgeline with just a stick, like this. You've just taken this loop here, put it through, and just a toggle, because it just makes things much easier. Then you're going to take the corners of the poncho, span them out to the trees, and we'll see you when it's done. So here's a nice little shelter for the night. This is a Silnylon Poncho. It's actually as big as my LRRP tarp, my Bugatti tarp. So a few things to note. Ridgeline here. You know, we're used to seeing our ridgelines going this way, but there's no reason why you can't have it going the other way. Plus nice knot that we looked at before in a prusik. And then a few things here. For instance, you want to think about where the rain is going to flow to. So you really have to look at the shapes that you're creating and make sure that the rain is going where you want. So in this case, I actually added a little weight to keep this corner down. So I like to use a series of loops. It's a pretty thin string. Short loops, long loops, medium loops, all sorts of loops. Here we have an anchor. Perfect space for this. Might make it a little tighter actually, we'll see. Yeah, that's okay. So perfect space for this. Weighted the anchor down a little bit. Here it's just a nice stick with a clove hitch on the small loop. And here, again, it's just 2 loops. And this debris pile has got enough weight to it. And if I want to, in this case it's set up sort of for lots of living room, but if it gets really drastic in the night, I can actually just lower the whole setup, as you can see, just by loading this thing. But right now I was looking for a bit of airiness and a place to sit up in the middle. So we talked about this thing already, right? Using little bits of wood as toggles. Here it's another just a long loop and a short loop. And the nice thing about using trees is that you can get the angle exactly the way you want it. And then here is the key piece. Somewhere in this whole game there has to be elastic. And this is the elastic off my backpack. But there has to be some elastic somewhere so that you have the ability to not tear the Silnylon. So here we did a little work on getting the direction just right, and then over here didn't have an anchor, but we do know how to make a nut, like a chock. So this is a chock, a little wood chock here. It's not really a crucial tie out, but I thought it was kind of cute. So there you have it. Things you can do with a little Silnylon tarp poncho thing. I like it. So yeah, and if the weather gets worse in the night, this is the back of the setup here. If the weather gets worse in the night, you get this thing. It's just a clove hitch. Slide it right down. Put a little weight on that. Get rid of this thing. Put it at the bottom, and suddenly this nice, wide, open living space becomes an absolute little fortress. So a bit of a 360 around the tarp here. Things to watch and think about, like we said before, is where the rain's going to fall. Lots and lots of room inside, especially due to lifting the poncho hood nice and high. Great. 2 at a squeeze, 1 end gear easily. And actually, I think it turned into an alright shape even. Yeah, it's nice when things are pretty. So, this is what I like to do to be totally comfortable in the forest. Mountain forest, so alpine forest in the summer, for anything from kind of 3 days of driving rain and freezing rain in -5 to +20 can be carried in this little pack with this thing on top, and I'm just loving this little Tarahumara backpack. So here you have my little sleeping mat, whereupon more later, fits underneath here nicely. This thing fits on the top, a little duffel thing, but it's wonderful. Opens at the top here, and it just allows you to be completely organized and have your stuff everywhere you need it. So what's in here? Well, first of all, there's a clothing system. So I think in systems, in this kind of conditions, I always have kind of a wicking base layer and a warm base layer. So I've got merino in here. I've got a shirt, always got some kind of button shirt. Hang on, let me just get this. So, ordinary base layer, merino base layer, shirt, leggings. So I have shorts and leggings, and then puffy. This one's with wool. Soft shell, and then the hard shell pants and jacket are in here, and I have a poncho, which is over there, of course. So you can imagine two buffs of different densities or different weights. So with that, you can adapt very easily to a lot of different conditions. So that's all the clothing stuff. Oh yeah. Dry socks for sleeping, you know how I feel about that. And this thing, secret weapon, wrap it round my kidneys and hips when it's just a little bit cooler, and it does makes a huge difference, especially when sleeping. Really, really useful. Also useful as a bug net when you're sleeping, and just generally a great thing to have with you. So that's that on the clothing front. Having all that stuff with me also means that I don't need to carry that heavy a sleeping bag, because if it's really nasty, I just put my puffy on the bed and everything's good. So, cooking. We were talking about bug nets, so this can actually be used as a head net if it's really dreadfully buggy and this isn't cutting it somehow, or you don't have it. So in here I have bugs again. This is insect protein with oats. I quite like these at the moment. Some instant coffee, some chai, some other bars of various sorts. So, but you know, you don't need an awful lot of food. And if you did want to have food for several days, you might even think about having it separately as a little haversack. But that's food enough for like 2-3 days. So, kuksa, always. I like to use a hobo stove and I like to use this one because there's no moving parts and it's not really that much heavier than the smaller one, and you can always find some kind of like gritty quarry somewhere, or you know, road where you can cook yourself some dinner without blowing the place up. So I like that. Yeah, it's heavy, but it's worth it for me. And then canteen with canteen cup and the top, and got some fat wood in here and some spoons, and this is a titanium canteen so I can warm it up, use it as a hot water bottle if I need to. Just generally very useful. Other things on this belt kit, yeah, so tourniquet. Just if you're going to wear a tourniquet, put the tourniquet on the outside where you're going to need it, because if you're going to need it, you're going to need it very quickly. And just to counteract any myths, you don't need to know a lot of stuff about how to use a tourniquet. Bad stuff happen, not stop bread stuff. Right, this thing goes up 2 inches above and tighten it till it stops. Okay? Alright, so then on to the evening. Hats, always good, especially when using it with a poncho, or in fact with this thing to keep the bugs off your face. It's nice. Night bag. So in the night bag, it's all sorts of stuff in here. Pillow, my head torch, my optics. I've got a little tiny monocular with me, usually blister stuff and whatever. Exped sin mat. I like it. I don't have to carry it, but on this pack it just fits in the bottom, and the poncho thing comes inside the same bag, my little Silnylon Poncho, and you know what, it's really nice to sleep comfortably outside. But they are prone to getting punctured by sticks, so my 3/4 length thermarest and for the bottom half this thing. Then in here, the magic duffel, this thing straps onto the outside of the Tarahumara. I'll show you how. So some rope, actual load bearing rope, always have it. Hyperlight Mountaineering, Mountain Designs shell, pants, Alp Kit Hunker, ultra thin, ultra light, ultra tiny Hunker baby bag. I really, really like it. Didn't know I was going to like it, but I do. And then in here, yes, a little bit of Cuban fiber tarp. It's about the same size as that, and it's so useful for everything. For instance, if it's really heavily raining, use this thing as your ground sheet and just find some way of suspending all the four corners so you're lying in a little bathtub with this, and all the water can just go away if you didn't bring a hammock. Yeah, and then there's this little sleeping bag. That is Alpine Down Pro 3. That's it. That is how I have a super nice sleep in the woods, no matter what the weather, for as long as I like. And I suggest you do it too. Really dig this pack. Just you quickly forget that it's there. And actually, I have to say, kind of stalking through this wet forest, there's basically no one else around. It makes me feel kind of feral. I like it, and I like then to be able to kind of jump around and get in some steep ground if I want to. And it's good when the rig is capable of doing that. I mean, that's partly why I've got the load-bearing rope with me. And actually that in itself is enough for the terrain that we have here, but sometimes I even take a little tiny thin ski mountaineering harness, or just a piece of tape, like a piece of sling, turn it into figure of 8, and then you can get into some steep places around here. So that's fun. But that's not for today. No, no, no. Today is a day for sort of smoothing it through the forest here. So much rain came. So much rain. I like it. What's not to like, right? Yes. Super lush. Now, sometimes the best place to be actually is in the place where most of the water went, because sometimes you have now the gravel and less mud, but it's a toss-up. So, anyway, we have arrived at the forestry track here. So, that will be it for today. And yeah, thank you for hanging out with me up there. I quite like it, in my little pavilion. Yes. Talking to the ancestors and whatever. So that's the little junction just came like bop, bopping right out of. It's like it's such a funny sensation when you've been in the forest a bit, and then you sort of jump onto this forestry road and it feels like you're a bit of an invader. It's like going raiding down the valley. Oh, nice, nice. Who knows, maybe I'll have some pancakes. Ooh, that could be pretty good, couldn't it? We will see. We will see. Anyway, it's very nice out here. We have many beautiful edible plants at the moment flowering. And look, this is one of these typical grit places I talked about before, where you can put your hoe but with no danger. What else have we got? Strawberries. Oh yes. Ah, right, there's one right here. Look. Yummy, that's gonna be so nice. Let's have that. Nom nom nom. Yes. Oh, there's bunches of them. That's the cool thing about strawberries, that if you find one, then you're probably going to find lots of them. But I'm going to leave these for someone else and carry on down the hill and see how it all goes. So, see you later, guys. Go out in nature. It helps.